What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So today I'm going to answer a question about Social Security and why the Democrats didn't actually move forward with Social Security reform when they had the majority. So that's what we're going to focus on in this video. But first off, you guys can do me a favor. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification, and then click all. By clicking all, you'll get notified anytime we post a video. We do daily videos here, so by clicking the bell notification and clicking all, you should be getting updated every day. And just a reminder, thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter and Threads, you can at the TEC Show Live. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to read this comment. So this comment comes from Mary. Mary, thank you for the comment. And she says here, I'm curious, the Democrats had the House with Nancy Pelosi and the Senate with Chuck Schumer. They could have improved it, fixed it, or what have you for Social Security. So as we can see, both party politicians don't give a hoot. They can talk and talk and not do anything about it, but they will give themselves a raise. So Mary, thank you for the comment. The question, I think you were asking a question, you were kind of making a statement as well, but I want to talk a little bit about this. So the first thing, when it comes to a raise, I just want to address that really quickly. They haven't actually voted for a raise in a very, very long time. They get a cost of living adjustment, just like the COLA that you receive with Social Security. But when it comes to them voting themselves a raise, they haven't done that in a long time. The reason why they haven't done that is because they know it looks bad. They're not working. They're not, I mean, especially right now. Look at the chaos that's going on in the Congress. Could you imagine if they voted themselves a raise? They would all be out of office, or at least they should be out of office, because you should vote them out of office if they're voting for a raise at this point when they're not doing anything. So that's the first thing. It's been years since they've actually voted for a raise. Now, they make a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. $174,000. They don't need a raise for a very, very long time. They should wait until that becomes the national average, and then maybe they can get a little raise at that point. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to take a look at the question that you posed, and I want to break it down so hopefully it's a little easier to understand, I think, because when you're talking about Democrats having the House, the Senate, and the presidency, yes, that was true. For 2 years they had all of those things. Why didn't they get anything done when it comes to Social Security reform? That is a very, very good question, and we're going to talk about it. So when we're looking at just a breakdown, so you have the House here, and then you have the Senate. Now, the House is a majority vote. All you need is the majority, and you can move forward with legislation. So back when the Democrats had control, they had the majority vote. So they could have actually voted for Social Security reform. They could have voted for Social Security increase, and they could have passed it, because they had the majority vote. As long as everyone stuck together, if all the Democrats stuck together, they could have passed legislation when it comes to Social Security reform. But that's just in the House. They also need to pass it in the Senate. And this is where we see a lot of, we hear, well, you have the majority, why can't you do anything? Well, in the Senate, you need 60 votes in order to pass legislation. And so because you need 60 votes in order to pass legislation, a lot of stuff doesn't get done, because back then the breakdown was 50-50. So you had 50 Democrats, you had 50 Republicans, and then you had Kamala Harris, the vice president, come in and break the tie. And so in essence, Democrats had control. And so that's why Chuck Schumer was and is the leader of the Senate right now, the majority leader. And so when you're looking at legislation, you have 50 votes, but that's all you have. So what does that mean? You need support. You need support from the Republicans. If Republicans don't come on board, if you can't get 10 Republicans to vote for Social Security reform, then the bill is going nowhere. And lawmakers, Nancy Pelosi being one, she doesn't like to vote on a bill if she thinks it's going to fail. And I don't know all the reasoning behind that, but I can guess when it comes down to it. You don't want to pass something and then have it go to the Senate and then fail. Because what some politicians will do, and Speaker McCarthy, or former Speaker McCarthy, was just doing this, he was passing a lot of legislation, majority vote, passing it in the House, and then it was going over to the Senate. It was just dying. And so former Speaker McCarthy was taking victory laps and said, we passed this bill, we passed this bill, we got rid of the IRS agents and all this stuff that he was saying, but none of those bills went anywhere in the Senate. And so you have to work together in order to get something done. And so you take the victory laps, but when people look at it, they say, well, I thought you passed this. And then he says, well, it didn't go anywhere in the Senate. Well, you're passing something in the House. It's not going anywhere in the Senate, so it's not going anywhere. And so why are you celebrating the fact that you're actually passing something? So I think that's what the strategy there is in the House. You want to pass something in the House, but you want to make sure that it has support in the Senate and that it will pass in the Senate. Because if it doesn't pass in the Senate, it never happened. It really never happened. You're wasting your time. You can vote on bills in the House that actually have a chance to pass in the Senate. And so just looking at the time when Democrats were controlling the House, the Senate, and the White House, they knew that they needed the 10 votes, and they knew they didn't have those 10 votes from Republicans. And so they didn't move forward with legislation when it comes to Social Security reform. Now, they did focus on some other bills. They focused on reconciliation bills. And so I know your question is, well, if they focused on reconciliation bills, you only need a majority vote for reconciliation bills in both the House and the Senate. So why didn't they pass Social Security through reconciliation? Good question. They can't do that. The Byrd Rule will not allow them. Okay, so it says here, the Byrd Rule defines any reconciliation changes to Social Security as extraneous and therefore ineligible for reconciliation. And so that's the situation the Democrats were in. They couldn't pass Social Security reform through reconciliation. In the House, all they needed was a majority vote, which they probably could have gotten. But in the Senate, they needed the 60 votes, so they needed Republicans to come on board. And still to this day, I haven't heard a Republican senator come out and say, I'm for a Social Security increase. And so because of that, if you pass something like that in the House, it goes nowhere in the Senate. And so that's the big problem that we're having right now. So how do we fix this? The way that we fix it is by voting the right people into office. And if the Democrats do have a majority in the Senate, and that majority is 60 or above, well, then guess what? They can pass whatever legislation they want. Now, it's hard to get a 60 vote margin in the Senate. And that's a huge challenge. And usually it's around 51, 52. If it's a majority, you very rarely will see 60 Democrats in the Senate or 60 Republicans in the Senate. But right now, that's what they would need to do in order to pass like a Social Security increase, unless they can put together some type of a bipartisan bill that has increases in it and then has some other things that maybe Republicans would be a little bit more comfortable with. But like I said, I haven't heard, especially when it comes to senators, I haven't heard Republicans coming out in favor of some type of an increase for Social Security. The only thing that they're talking about right now is the double taxation, so getting rid of that. Now, that could potentially provide an increase, yes, but it wouldn't provide an increase for everyone. It would only provide an increase for people who are paying taxes. And usually those who are at or below the poverty level, those are the ones that really need the increase. So in my opinion, Democrats, yes, you have Democrats that are talking about a Social Security increase. They're talking about Social Security reform. They're talking about protecting Social Security and all that. You have some Republicans also saying they want to protect Social Security. But when it comes to Republicans, they want to do it in different ways. They don't want to tax anyone. So when it comes to raising the cap and all this different stuff that we're hearing about, they're not in favor of that. They actually want to raise the full retirement age and make some, they're not saying they want to make cuts, but raising the full retirement age, that's a cut. Some of the other things Republicans are talking about could provide more protection for Social Security, but no increases or anything like that. We're not hearing that come from them. And so the bottom line is you need to vote the right people into office. As long as you have the right people in place, hopefully they can do something. Now, if you see that you have 60 Democrats in the Senate and you have the majority, so the speaker is a Democrat and the president is a Democrat, and nothing gets done when it comes to Social Security reform, then you will know that Democrats have no plans to do anything when it comes to Social Security reform. But if you had those numbers, I think we would probably see something move forward when it comes to Social Security reform and potentially a Social Security increase. You already have Representative Larson's been pushing this bill, Social Security 2100 Act, for years now. They just need the numbers. If they can get the numbers, that potentially you can see something like that in the very near future. And so, Mary, I hope I answered that question. If you guys have any other questions, post them down below and maybe I'll put it in a future video. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.